Deep in the soul of the Philippines right now, a quiet revolution is taking place on the tennis court, one that transcends rankings, trophies, and final scores. It's a story of national pride awakening, of millions of hearts beating in unison for a young woman who dared to chase an improbable dream. While the world of sports often chases headlines about champions hoisting silverware, Filipinos have found themselves captivated by something far more intimate and powerful: the raw, unfolding journey of one of their own breaking barriers they once thought unreachable. Picture this: Jessica Soho, the legendary broadcast journalist whose voice has guided the nation through political upheavals, natural disasters, and moments of collective triumph and tragedy for decades, sits courtside. No notepad in hand, no camera crew dictating her reactions. Instead, she rises to her feet again and again, clapping with unrestrained emotion, her eyes glistening not with professional detachment but with pure, unfiltered Filipino pride. When a figure like Jessica Soho stands up in applause for 20-year-old Alex Eala from Quezon City, it's more than a personal gesture. It's a signal that ripples across the archipelago, from the bustling streets of Manila to the quiet provinces, telling an entire country that something historic is happening right before their eyes. This isn't merely about tennis statistics or clay court mastery. This is about a nation falling deeply, unapologetically, and joyfully in love with a daughter who left home far too young, carrying the weight of unspoken hopes on her slender shoulders. Alex Eala's path was never paved with ease or instant glory. At the tender age of 13, while most girls her age were worrying about school crushes, friendship dramas, and weekend mall trips, she packed her bags and flew halfway across the world to Majorca, Spain. There she stepped into the intense, unforgiving environment of the Rafa Natal Academy, one of the most elite and demanding tennis training grounds on the planet. Days blurred into nights filled with grueling drills, technical corrections, physical exhaustion, and the heavy silence of homesickness. Early on, few outside her immediate circle paid attention. She was just another promising left-handed prospect navigating the lower tiers of the ITF circuit, playing in front of sparse crowds, scraping by on modest prize money, with no guarantee that the sacrifices would ever bear fruit. But Alex kept showing up, quietly, relentlessly. Year after year, she honed her game through countless early-round exits, minor victories, and painful lessons. She built her foundation brick by brick on those unforgiving courts, developing not just her powerful ground strokes and agile movement but an inner steel forged in solitude and self-belief. Then, in 2025, the dam finally broke in spectacular fashion at the Miami Open. Entering as a wildcard, she was largely dismissed as a feel-good story at best. Instead, she exploded onto the global stage. She stunned Madison Keys with fearless aggression. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the tennis world and had Filipinos glued to their phones and televisions at ungodly hours: a commanding straight-sets victory over Iga Swiatek, the dominant world number 2 and multiple Grand Slam champion. Eala marched all the way to the semifinals, the first player from the Philippines ever to reach that stage in a WTA 1000 event. That breakthrough catapulted her into the world's top 100 for the first time. Back home, the reaction was nothing short of volcanic. Streets erupted in cheers, social media overflowed with pride, and for a brief, shining period, the entire country felt united by the magic of possibility. That Miami run was no fluke or one-season wonder. It marked the beginning of a genuine ascent. She pushed further by reaching her first WTA Tour final at Eastbourne, where her fighting spirit shone brightly. She captured her maiden WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, proving she could close out big moments on different surfaces. By the end of 2025, she had climbed to a career-high world number 50. Her image appeared on the prestigious cover of Vogue Philippines. Giant billboards featuring her determined gaze lit up the skylines of Manila and Makati. Suddenly, her name was being spoken in the same reverent breath as boxing icon Manny Pacquiao. She had transcended sports to become a living symbol of Filipino resilience, ambition, and quiet defiance against the odds. As 2026 dawned, the momentum didn't fade, it evolved. She delivered impressive performances at the ASB Classic, advancing deep in both singles and doubles. Her main draw debut at the Australian Open in Melbourne turned into a cultural phenomenon. Filipino fans flocked to the venue in overwhelming numbers, creating actual traffic jams around the outer courts simply because they wanted to witness history in person. It was a surreal sight: tennis, a sport not traditionally dominant in the Philippines, drawing crowds large enough to disrupt traffic. Former Philippine tennis star Cecil Mamiat, soon to be enshrined in the Philippine Sports Hall of Fame, observed it best: the enormous expectations and pressure weighing on young Alex are not crushing her spirit. Instead, they are sharpening her focus, refining her game, and forging her character in the fire of competition. At just 20 years old, Eala remains a beautiful work in progress. Her game still carries moments of rawness and vulnerability, yet it flashes with brilliance, creativity, and an evolving tactical maturity. Every match adds new colors and textures to a portrait that is still being painted stroke by stroke in real time. This unfinished quality is precisely what makes her journey so magnetic and relatable. She's not some distant, polished icon. She is becoming messy at times, majestic at others, always pushing forward. That is why Jessica Soho's heartfelt words landed with such profound impact. Speaking not as a journalist chasing a story but as a witness to something larger, Soho urged the young star to stay mentally unbreakable, to shoulder the heavy cloak of national expectations without letting it suffocate her dreams, and to continue building her legacy with patience and courage. It was the kind of advice that only someone who has chronicled decades of Filipino history could deliver with such gravity. Soho wasn't there for a casual photo opportunity. She recognized in that moment that she was sitting in the middle of living history. Eala's remarkable rise has already begun reshaping the sporting landscape she left behind. In January 2026, the Philippines successfully hosted its very first WTA-sanctioned tournament, the inaugural Philippine Women's Open. That event didn't materialize in a vacuum. It was born in significant part from the inspiration and belief that Alex Eala ignited, the idea that Filipino athletes could not only compete on the international stage but draw global attention and investment to their homeland. She didn't just raise her own ceiling, she lifted the aspirations of an entire generation and an entire tennis ecosystem with her. When Jessica Soho declared that Alex Eala is already a champion for the Philippines, title or no title, she wasn't being overly sentimental. She was speaking with precision. True championships today echo far beyond physical trophies gathering dust on shelves. They live in the sparkling eyes of little girls across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, who now pick up a racket for the first time because they see someone who looks like them, speaks like them, and dreams like them competing against the best in the world. They live in the sea of Philippine flags waving proudly in stadiums from Madrid to Stuttgart to Melbourne. They live in those unforgettable traffic jams outside a humble tennis court in Australia. Now on the iconic red clay of Madrid at the majestic Caja Magica, nestled within the vibrant Parc Manzanares, Eala arrived carrying a world ranking of 44, a position that would have sounded like an unreachable fantasy just 12 months earlier. In her opening match, she faced the experienced Grand Slam finalist Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a battle-hardened veteran who knows every trick pressure can play. On paper, it looked like a stern test of youthful momentum against seasoned craft. In reality, Eala delivered a commanding statement, dispatching her opponent 6-3, 6-3 with clean, controlled, and authoritative tennis that showed poise beyond her years. Parallel to her singles campaign runs an equally compelling story in doubles, where her partnership with Turkish player Zeynep Sönmez has blossomed into something genuine and rare. Their bond wasn't manufactured for convenience. It grew organically through years of shared struggles on the ITF circuit, beginning with their first meeting in France back in 2023. They've navigated the same lonely hotels, grueling travel schedules, and emotional roller coasters. Earlier this year at the Abu Dhabi Open, the night before they were scheduled to face each other in singles, the two friends chose connection over competition. They sat together for a long 4-hour dinner filled with laughter, vulnerability, and honest conversation about life on the tour. Eala went on to win that singles match, but the real victory was the depth of friendship that evening revealed. In Madrid, paired against the formidable experienced team of Chan Houching and Fanny Stolar, Eala and Sönmez found themselves in early trouble, trailing 0-2. The specialists seemed comfortable dictating rhythm with clinical precision. Then something shifted. The chemistry between the Filipino-Turkish duo ignited. They roared back by winning 6 games in a row, flipping the entire contest on its head. What could have been a straightforward lesson from the veterans transformed into a masterclass in resilience, trust, and intuitive teamwork. On the clay, where patience and emotional control are everything, their friendship proved to be their greatest weapon. The clay court season stretches onward with demanding stops ahead. The Catalonia Open, the prestigious Italian Open in Rome, a tune-up in Parma, and then the grandest stage of them all, Roland Garros in Paris. The French Open is tennis at its most brutal and beautiful, physically punishing over long rallies, emotionally draining under the weight of history, and played on the slowest, most tactical surface. Alex Eala will walk onto those legendary Parisian clay courts carrying every sacrifice, every early morning training session in Mallorca, every heartbreaking loss, and every exhilarating breakthrough. She will carry the hopes of a nation that is holding its collective breath with every serve, every return, and every gritty rally. She has undeniably earned her place among the elite. Her explosive run in Miami announced her arrival with thunderous authority. Her performances in Madrid, even amid the challenges of the second round, continue to reinforce her growth and potential. Every match between now and Paris writes another authentic chapter in a story still very much in motion, a legacy being built not in perfection, but in persistence, heart, and the courage to keep evolving under the brightest lights. At only 20 years old, Alexandra Eala is not a finished product or a completed fairy tale. She is the passionate author in the midst of crafting her most compelling pages yet. The tennis world is finally paying full attention, and an entire nation stands proudly behind her, flags waving, voices united, hearts full of hope. This is more than a sports story, this is Court Eala. This is belief in motion. This is history being written one powerful forehand, one courageous comeback, and one inspired point at a time, live, raw, and beautifully unfinished.